You can find out more about us there, and you'll also find out more about our two guests that we've got this morning. Dave Harris has been a long time associate and friend to independent thinking, and is now filling our office duties because we furloughed our office in Wales. So he is now fulfilling the role of two very competent and knowledgeable ladies who would have been in the office. So he's been busy doing that, but he's also an associate in his own right with an amazing background in education as a school leader, working across the world, supporting school leaders and school systems. He also has a passion about through schools and transition, and he acts as my right-hand man, and he's the voice of wisdom in so many ways. So I look forward to hearing what he has to say today. Floyd Woodrow is an enigma that came to us via another associate, Julie Rees, who some of you might know from her work around values education in a primary school in Ledbury. And she was just blown away by a man with Floyd's background, a military background, as some of you know, but the way with which he was able to get across the power of values when it comes to leadership and doing the right thing and making the right choices under pressure. And I think having these two people this morning to talk about leadership, bravery and values in challenging times, I can't think of any two better people with which to have this conversation. So enough from me. Let me start with Dave. Let's start with an easy question, Dave. Define leadership.
I suppose I'd start by saying what it isn't. Leadership is not management. And I think there's a lot of people say they do leadership when actually they do management. Leadership is about then not prescribing the roadmap ahead, but working with others to find it. I remember one of the definitions that I used in Leadership Dialogues, which is one of the books I wrote, was around the fact that leadership, that management was something that could be done by a relatively educated 17 or 18-year-old. Doesn't mean it's not important, but it means it's about having a structure which you fit into to a predetermined end. Which is why at the moment management is so complex, because nobody's ever had this world before and everybody wants a new way through. If you look at trying to get out of a mess, management is not the way you're going to do it unless you've got a very good leader who's helping you get there. Leadership is about helping you address the reasons behind and encouraging you to be part of the solution. I've led a number of schools and organisations, and I kind of never thought I was the only one. In fact, I never thought that I knew what to do next. The only way you can do it is by leading a team. We all see things much better when we take on everybody's perspective.
Okay, all right. So what it is and what it isn't. Floyd, same question to you from your perspective and your different background and different history. What is leadership for you?
Thank you. Thank you for asking me that secondly, because it's always a tough one, I think, to start off with. For me, in a world that's changing in a number of ways, technologically, economically, socially, politically, environmentally, it is now tough to make the right decisions as a leader. And I always think the highest form of leadership is to lead without authority. I think I want people to follow because it's the right thing to do, because we're aligned behind a common vision, a common purpose. So I look at it from a number of different elements. I think leadership is about sensitivity and empathy. It's about understanding things from other people's perspectives, to be able to connect and communicate effectively. It is also about looking after yourself, making sure that you are in a good place as well. That's about well-being. It is most certainly about having a vision, clarity of direction, that you are taking people with you on a journey. That vision needs to be clearly articulated, understood, so that we can see what it looks like in the next 3 to 5 years. And it's just a direction, it draws us forward. It won't be perfect and it might change slightly, but it draws us forward. It is most definitely about values, and that's about things that become non-negotiable, the brand of the group that you are leading. This is what we're going to hold to, and those values are articulated and clearly understood, and we know what they mean. It's no And if I said the word transparency, we all know what that word means. It's not, as we sometimes hear, transparency, but it means different things, and all of a sudden there's ambiguity. That's not what it means. Clear values. And that then is about making sure that we have, again, a strategy and the resilience to go through the milestones that we're going to go forward through. That's about responsibility and being responsive. We're not on sat nav. So leadership for me is not being on sat nav. We're making decisions. But leadership is about making decisions. It's not about consensus and democracy. So whilst I will say the same as David, there's not one plan I've ever had that's not been enhanced or somebody's given me a better plan, but it is about making decisions. And I think now more than ever, we need leaders to make decisions, not be swayed, look at the problems, and then make a decision, but take people with them because they're part of that decision-making process. That would be my idea of good leadership.
Thank you, Floyd. That's really interesting. And we've had this conversation before over the years, your military background, and I don't have a military background. So in my head, there was an assumption that whoever's in charge says and everybody else follows. But your experience in the SAS, leading groups in the SAS, it's a different approach to leadership. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, of course I can. And it's something I'm probably really proud of as well. When people do say military leadership is just about where you just get told to do something, it's far from that. And especially in this day and age, as I said, there are so many more difficult things to have to adjust to and to take into account. And we've been in very complex environments. And I think what people forget sometimes is, for me, the number one role of the Special Air Service is support and influence. We get lost in the sense that we get renowned for coming through doors and windows. That's such a small part of what we do. We are brilliant at peacekeeping. I've been involved in the arresting of a number of different war criminals, for example. And that's probably my proudest moment, is bringing people to justice, passing them over to The Hague so that they are tried for the crimes that they have committed. When we go into organizations, again, we are usually the first in. We have to negotiate, and we're world-class at negotiating, understanding the situation. However, what we are able to do is that far right-hand edge of leadership, which is sometimes you have to fight for what you believe. Sometimes you have to say that enough is enough. There's a group of people that are now hurting another group. Somebody has to step up and defend them. So there's the balance of those elements. Now, within that, everybody in the Special Air Service is a leader in their own right. Every one of us can take charge of a situation and make a decision, but we know when to follow as well. So that's the key thing about when you're dealing with lots of bright people. We all have an opinion. And actually, that's why I always say it's not about consensus or democracy. With 50 bright people in a room, we might have subtle differences. We see that now, don't we, with scientists and government advisors and people giving an individual lots of different information. Well, unfortunately, none of them are right. There's no such thing as science to deal with this pandemic, or there's no perfect answer. So therefore, what I require a leader to do is to now make a decision based on these talented people. That's why leadership's tough, because ultimately somebody has to make a pretty big call in some cases. The best ones realize that all these people around me can give me better information. And as I said, sometimes when I've been in the Special Air Service, a young, talented individual is better at this particular task than me. We hand the task over straight away. I have no inhibition, say, lead until, doesn't mean I abdicate responsibility, but that person, just, you need to make the decisions here because this is where you need to stand up. Again, I'm still the one that ultimately has to make the final decisions. I think that's important in leadership. Lots of advisors, lots of great advice, but somebody's going to make a call sometime, otherwise we don't ever move forward.
That's really interesting. Just linked to that, and slightly as an aside, but just because I think it's relevant, I know from the conversations we had for our book, The Working Class, which is a whole load of associates were involved, and others were involved in that book, trying to change the narrative about working with children and young people from poorer socioeconomic backgrounds, as you are yourself, Floyd. And you told me that in the SAS that it was classless. Can you just describe that? Because it fits in with some of the stuff you were saying previously.
No, most certainly. We have an ethos that has stood the test of time, 76 years. It has not changed. It is the unrelenting pursuit of excellence, highest standards of discipline, humor and humility, and classlessness. And this is so important. As I said, people come from all backgrounds, all walks of life, but when you join, you are expected to live up to those qualities, those 4 major qualities. And it means that everybody has a voice. And of course, that's what we want. But the voice is about solution. It's no good just sitting, coming up with all the problems, all the things that are not going well. That's, anybody can do that. What I've always tried to engender as well is that I want you to come at this from, how do we improve the plan, or give me a better plan? That's really, really important, isn't it? You can have a difference of opinion. It can be passionate. You can articulate and with that passion, but it must be about moving forward towards what I class as a super North Star, which is, what are we trying to do? So I think the most important thing on all leaders is be clear on what you're looking to achieve. Once that's clear, most situations are slightly easier to understand and make decisions on, because we're clear that's where we're going. And then with the solution approach, it means we can be passionate, because we know people are not just trying to do the classic good ideas club and take you off in a wrong direction, or come up with something we know is not achievable at this moment in time. It's still about taking us forward. And I think that's important in this context, that classlessness means I will listen to the newest teacher that comes into a classroom, to the oldest teacher, because we all have a voice, because we respect one another. And again, that respecting of people's opinion, sensitivity and empathy, so people feel involved, is vital if you're going through difficult times, because we're aligned behind it.
Okay, thank you. That's really interesting. Dave, so how would you relate your experience of leadership in schools, in various schools, with that sort of military approach to leadership? What are the similarities? What are the differences that might be useful to know about?
I think done well, it's exactly, I mean, because I honestly believe leadership is leadership whatever you are. And I think whether you're talking about taking a group of 5-year-olds out on a trip and there's one of you and 5 of them, that's leadership. Equally, so is running a country. And I think that, I mean, it's made me laugh, well, not laugh, but I'm not wanting to make any political points. I feel really sorry for leaders at the moment, because I think, as Floyd said, there isn't a rule book for this, and yet people want a rule book. And there was one of the things I saw the other day, some politician or other was being held to task because they said, yes, but what you're really saying is this isn't the science, it's about the resources. And you've made this decision balanced on the resources. And I kind of went, yep, that's what all decisions are made. If there was no restriction on resources for schools, blimey, just think what a wonderful time we'd have in our schools if someone said, actually, you know what, spend whatever you like. We all know we could make education better. So, of course, we all, whatever country, whatever resources we have, make a decision based on resources. That's what leadership is. Leadership is about balancing those things. The key is not how you do it. Sorry, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And for me, I love to think about leadership as that pulling together of minds. It is a group of people, whether you are teachers, whether you are military, whatever you are, that actually try to find an answer. It's about the difference between shared and distributed leadership. I sometimes hear people in schools will talk, oh yeah, we're really advanced, we've got distributed leadership. Actually, distributed's not a really high form. It's a better form than one person just telling everybody what to do. But distributed leadership means actually one person, in its simplest term, one person tells 3 people tell none. It kind of goes down, and the point there is tell. Distributed leadership not done well is actually still autonomy. The highest form of leadership is shared. And again, there's a whole lot of research on that. As I sometimes work with teams to look at how they develop to become more shared. And the way you develop to become more shared is by actually having a common vision. Exactly what Floyd said. It's about how do we all make this decision. There's a huge problem, whatever it is, marauding ducks on the back corridor of your school, the virus, a plane, whatever it is, you probably haven't got it in a rule book. So actually you go, why? Well, what do we do? What is our purpose of being? And that's the question I ask whenever I first go into a school. I sit in reception and I just take it in. The first kid, the first parent, the caretaker, the person behind the desk. I'm like, what's the point here? What do we do? In the very greatest schools, I kind of get this lovely answer. Their lives go, well, we change lives, we do this, that, and the other. And I could take you to many schools where they don't give you like a McDonald's, we've learned this. They give you a heart answer. And you know that school is well led. Of course, there's one person at the heart of that who is at the heart of the decisions, but they were at the heart of replicating that simple ethos, that message, that clear thing. Everything else is we can talk about, but one thing we can't debate is our values, is our ethos. Because the moment you do things not based on your values, you are going to do very ill.
Okay, wow, thank you. It's interesting that Floyd talks about arresting war criminals and breaking through windows, and you talk about marauding ducks and groups of 5-year-olds. But we all have our battles.
Yeah, absolutely.
The idea of leadership without a title and sort of supporting middle leaders, and I want to come to both of you about leadership in a crisis or under a crisis, and to see whether there's any difference. But in terms of supporting at the moment, supporting the middle leaders or those without a title, how do you encourage and support and build trust and confidence in them if at a time where maybe they're feeling a bit scared? Dave, I'll come to you, Dave, first, and then we'll go back to Floyd.
The key is still values and ethos. Why are we doing? It's about making the parents, everyone realise that actually we don't know everything. You know, there's a lot. I feel so sorry for those of you, and I'm sure some of the audience are sitting there going, yeah, it's all very well, Dave, you retired a few years ago from headship. What about trying this now? How do I do the values when I've got parents going, how do I open? You've got government advice that is clearly got more holes in it than anything else, because the government doesn't know your school. And the key is that to believe that if you are sure what your school is about, the most important thing you must do when you're talking is ask yourself the question, but does this fit in with our ethos? And if what you're proposing does not fit in with your ethos, you should fight it. And you turn it so that there's a way to do it. If you actually read around the edges of the current guidelines, there is room for fudge. So you use that fudge to get it to work for you, to go, actually, you know what, this isn't us. And the more that middle leaders realise they are the most important part of a team, any senior leader that doesn't respect their middle leadership team is not a great leader. Because the whole point of the middle leaders people are that they are sharing the vision. If they aren't sharing, as I've just described in the previous answer, then how on earth is the school going to move on? Because it's through knowing that we all want to find the same answer. And what I'd say is, I would listen to somebody who'd only been at the school for 3 months with us, as Floyd said, as much as somebody who'd been there for 30 years. They both are going to have valid and hopefully different viewpoints. It's actually only by finding different ways. The only thing that should be the same between all our points of view is the thing that we believe at the heart of it. And if we do that as a team, you will find the right answer. But don't expect it to come to you. And the fact that you are confused, worried, and upset actually means you're probably a really good leader who's struggling in very, very uncertain times. It's almost, I'd say, if you aren't feeling a little bit like that, then actually you probably don't get it.
There was a question that came through on the Q&A about how do we get people to share the values if they don't currently share the values. And I know, for example, I know 2 of the schools that you've worked in. One, you were head of a secondary school and transformed it into an all-through school by bringing together the infant and the junior school in a former pit village in Nottinghamshire. And also then aware that you went into a school that was being transformed under to become an academy under the building, BSF, I think was, so, and which brought some of its older staff with it as well. And I've seen you work on 2 different occasions, bring a team together around a new set of, or a resurrected set of values? I don't know. What's the sort of secret there?
I think the key is to be, I mean, I always say when I in normal times and working with teachers in rooms, I always say to them, one of the most powerful things you ever do is to say you don't know the answer. Because you have to knock on the head the fact that you know this, and certainly when you come into something new as the leader, if you paint this picture that you've kind of got all the answers and knew where they are, and if any of you worked under me, you'll kind of know, God, yeah, well, he did that wrong, we didn't. I have and still do make loads of mistakes, and I will continue to make loads of mistakes because I'm a human being. What I hopefully do is listen to others, and the only thing, it is that thing that I will always go, look, this is, and I remember doing it when we moved to be an all-through school. I'm actually saying to the three staff, two groups of the staff didn't know me, the infants and the juniors, and I kind of went, well, I don't know how we do this. I don't know how we work on the separate sites. The only thing I am absolutely confident on is why we're doing it. And it's for the kids. Just think. But I always gave that opt-out and always tried to say, look, if you don't get this and you don't want it, please say now. Come and talk about it, because we can help you lead, move, whatever you want to with dignity. The point is, I want you all to help in transform. And most people get that. That's what they want. Most people want to make their school the most interesting place, and most people know that things don't stand still. So most people are really keen to be part, and I think once they see it, it's inevitable when somebody new comes in, people will go, yeah, but they're probably just saying that, they're just flash, they did that on an interview, they do this, what do they do? I kind of feel that if you went, well, no leader should lead one place the same as they do the next. Because everything changes, you as a leader should change. I learn more every year working with some amazing leaders, and I know some stunning leaders around the place, each one in their own context, their own place. Great leaders are adapted to their surroundings. They are not just chalked out so that you can go, right, I'm going to move you from there to there. You can't. Leadership is much more about a relationship than it is about what you're doing.
Right, and linked to the community and the situation that the school is in at that time.
Absolutely.
So leadership under a crisis then, I'll start with you, Dave, and then I'll come to Floyd. So what are the implications? Does anything change? What advice would you give to leaders leading during the crisis that we're in at the moment?
It's to try and get the agenda to be the one you want, which should be about the values. It should be, you know, it always has to be. If you've got a school motto, I've worked with loads of schools, the greatest school mottos, not actually motto is the wrong word, because they're just throw it the penny. I'm talking about the values, the things you see on the wall. This is what we do, boom, boom, boom. I kind of don't mind what the words are, but schools that have that go, you know, this is what we do. And every decision we make, hold me to account on that. The two things that change schools, and the research, Professor John Burnham that I write with sometimes, he spearheaded, was that when you look at it clearly, two things that make the most effective leaders across all sectors, is the importance that they put on the values is number one, and then the amount of trust in their organisation. And how do you get trust? By doing what you said you were going to do. A school that has these fantastic values on the wall, and then the head or whoever else acts in a different way, you know straight away that is not going to be a great school. It cannot be. Great schools are going to be ones where they do what is actually there on the wall. It's not just on the wall, it's in every interaction. It's the piece of paper on the floor. It's the ability that the head can go, wait, excuse me, is that, you know, touch the values on the wall. It's when somebody comes upset about something that you can actually, without having to talk sometimes, just go, this is there. Now what we have here is a huge crisis. You have to be able to touch your values. And if you don't have great values in your school, then maybe now's the time to actually go to take this break of going, you know what is it we're really, really about? And I think that's what perhaps this is doing for some. But for many of you, I know wonderful schools with wonderful values, I'm sure the way you're dealing with them already is going, yeah, but this is what's right when you look at our values. In the end, it's the only thing that matters.
I like that. I've heard you say before about, you know, schools that may have the rule book, the guidebook, the big thick document of what you do when this happens and when that happens. And your approach, certainly in your last school, it's the list of values. Can you remember what the values were from your last school? What was on the wall? Do you remember which ones?
I can't, because I've had different ones, and I've worked with a lot of schools now to get them. So I kind of, I mean, in Stone Soup, where I still work as a member of their team on a few days a month, we've got creating unimagined futures, and everything is about that. The staff have all just used the last week of lockdown to do a piece of work where they've each got to say, okay, imagine no money restriction, you can spend what you like, create unimagined futures. What does it look like? And got them to work in teams, to come away, and we've got this wonderful document of people saying, yes, we can do that. And some of those will actually happen. That's about living that values. And what I now does carry the head every meeting starts with that. It looks at it. And that's about getting the staff to really feel that that isn't just a set of words. So the staff then trust that the leader believes that the same thing that's written.
So it's, and Stone Soup that you mentioned is an AP school in Nottingham. So it's dealing with children that were
supposedly uneducatable, but doing amazingly well. I mean, the kids are great and the staff are great, and what's happening at the other end is stunning. So yeah, it's working. So
you've got the vision, which is the unimagined future, and then the values that underlie it. Another of our associates, Jim Smith, is a head teacher in Clevedon in the southwest, and his school vision is, or motto, if you like, is be brilliant and be kind, and everything comes back to that. And it's was that brilliant? Was that kind? Yes or no? And then whether that's saying that to the teachers or to the children or to the community, it's incredibly powerful. Thank you for that. And yeah, Floyd. So leadership in a crisis. What is it? Is it different? Does it change? Should it change? Should it not change?
Not if you've got all the right foundation stones in place. So the key thing for me is what I'm expecting to do is I should have gone through most of this stuff anyway. So when it comes to crisis, if you try and plan for crisis without having done anything beforehand, you have chaos. The most important thing is you just follow some common principles and some common basic things you know you need to do well. The best leaders have trained up all the leaders around them. So this is the key thing on leadership. And actually, I'm going to take this into schools. As you know, I've worked in hundreds of schools with tens of thousands of children and thousands of teachers. So what I'm going to say now, I think I'm going to throw out a little bit of a challenge, if I may, because I think this is important. When we talk about that Super North Star, that Super North Star has to be really clear. So I love, brilliance and challenge and unimagined. I think that's fantastic, but I want to know a little bit more about it. And what I want to know is that everybody in the school can articulate it so that when I speak to anybody in the staff, whoever they are, from the children to a TA, right the way through, they say the same thing, not identical, but they tell me the story. So for me, as quite rightly as Dave's pointed out, and you have, this is about the child. This is about this child coming into your care, going on adventures and experiences that enables them to be the best version of themselves, because we give them knowledge, we give them wisdom, common sense and judgment. We allow them to communicate effectively. We help them become resilient and great team members that they understand about the community and the society they're going to go in. So for me, it's about, that's what we're doing. We're trying to make sure these children go through our care and find the motivations, the passions that enable them to be the best that you can be. Once everybody's aligned behind that, actually most decisions then become quite easy. Is, as David said, what we're doing now going to get them there? Now, values are important, because I can also say to you is sometimes when I've gone into some schools and we talk about values, I'll be honest, not everybody can articulate those values. And although we want them to be at the forefront, which they should be, we need to know that those values apply to everybody. So it is about trust. It is about making sure we have passionate debate and commitment, but it's also about accountability. So the key thing on this one as well comes back into what we need to be able to do is this is where we're supporting and challenging one another, because this is the other key element. No organization will ever get to the top of their profession without support and challenge, which means support, again, sensitive and empathy, how can I help you? But challenge comes in because actually values are difficult. To be totally transparent, to have respect and to be fair every day is a tough ask for everybody. So sometimes we might slip. So where do we get the right support from our colleagues? And this is not about top-down leadership. This is where the middle management comes in. And when they see something going wrong, we call it out because it's the right thing to do. And what I would say, one of the areas where I've seen education not do as well as it could do, in the support and stuff like that, that's usually quite good. But in the accountability, where we're actually challenging one another, that's when it becomes more difficult. And now again, in crisis, I need people to be challenging in the right way, because the research suggests high support, high challenge for students, for colleagues, for the organization is what transforms organizations to be really, really good, and to deliver on that vision, to deliver on what we want to achieve, because we can turn around and go, that child, when they've been in our care, has now attained all these different skills because we've allowed them to grow and show them what they're capable of, and they are making their own choices. They are making the decisions on where they want to go in life, but we're giving them the tools to which to adapt to a life that's coming their way. And we know that most children today will do 5 or 7 different jobs. They won't do one job. They'll do 5. So the character skills, the behaviors that we give them, that adaptability with different bits of knowledge will be one of the key indicators of people going on to have particularly successful lives, which we should be able to manage in schools. But that takes quite a brave decision maker, decisions to be made within the school to make sure that's where we go and we follow those elements when we're getting tested in different ways. So for me, coming back round, I think those things are important. In crisis, if you've got, again, a clear super North Star, good strategy, good values, and you've created the resilience because you've done this by empowering leaders beneath you, then you won't have any problems. But you can't do it by yourself. Senior leadership teams cannot do this by themselves. If they don't have leadership levels beneath them standing up and making sure they're making the right calls, and in some case challenging your best friend, that's the key thing, isn't it? Where you and I, Ian, would know, I could come to you and say, actually, Ian, I don't think that's the right thing to do, because we know we can have good, passionate debate. I'm not saying I'm right, but I just want to make sure that have we stepped up to the right level. But I don't see that as much in schools or as at the level that I think it could be, because it's difficult, because, you know, as you said, some teachers have worked together for 10, 12, 14 years. Sometimes it's difficult to call things out. But remember, the child comes first, which means my decisions are usually quite easy. Is this helping the school move forward? Is this helping the child? If it's not, then I need to do something about that.
Okay. The high challenge, high support, with the previous conversation, the first one we had of the whole week, an hour or so ago, was around restorative practice with Mark Finnis and a head teacher from Carr Manor High School in Leeds, where it's an amazing school, do a lot of work around coaching and restorative approaches. And that came out loud and clear, this high challenge, high support. It's not about making it easy. It's not about doing stuff for people. It's not about doing stuff to people. It's about doing stuff with people in a way where you challenge them and you give them the support. And I think what we've got at the moment is a situation where everybody is incredibly challenged, which means we've got to also then be looking to the support that schools have got in place for everybody there, and how supportive they are being, and what do people need, and having those honest conversations. You used the word bravery, and I'm glad you did, because it'll lead us back to Dave as well, who wrote the book Brave Heads. And I've sort of made the joke earlier about, you know, you're arresting war criminals and Dave's herding ducks, but bravery is still important. And I'll come back to Dave's definition of bravery a little bit later. But can you just, from your perspective, explain how you get to be brave, Floyd?
For me, bravery actually comes from a number of different perspectives. And what I've learned is that it is always that super North Star. The most important thing is knowing, what am I trying to do? if I can back that up with my values of what I think it's because it's the right thing to do, then I think you've got to hold to it, even when you know it's difficult. And this is where the bravery comes in, because there'll be a lot of head teachers now that forget the government advice, forget the science, forget you're going to have to make a decision based on what you know is correct, and you're taking in a raft of other elements. So that could be that there's a danger to my staff. It could be actually the vulnerable children in this area required to come to school. It could be we need education to come back. It could be a multitude of different things. And each group, each community will have a number of different elements to take into account. Come back to what is it that we're trying to do as a school, as a community at this moment in time. These are my values. And then you will have to trust yourself, because I don't think anybody can make the right decision. There's not going to be a right or wrong to this. There'll be an adaptive practice. As you move forward, you get more information, then you can make a better decision. Being brave means holding to your values, your beliefs, because that's all you can do as a leader. And sometimes you'll probably be right most of the time. And if you're wrong, it's because you haven't got all the right information. More information comes in and I'll just change my decision and I'll adapt, because I'm not a perfect human being. The team around you is going to be really important, because, sorry, someone second, I was just going to say the team around me is important, because actually I do need support here. This is where I'll need support. When I've given the decision, I do want somebody to probably go, you're okay, Floyd, actually we're with you, because these are hard to do by yourself. There'll be decisions you're going to make that are hard. Sorry, Ian, you were going to ask me a question.
In one of your books, you described a situation from your experience in the military where you're about to, it's the middle of the night and you're flying low above the North Sea, and you're about to dive out into the North Sea and be picked up by a submarine with just a raft and a knife, and you talk about the fear that the actual physical feeling of the fear that you're experiencing then. And I know, speaking to head teacher, the ones who are waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, or getting up at 5 o'clock and having to go and sort of rally the troops, excuse the phrase, but to look like they're calm, but there is all the feelings that are going on inside. What was your approach for dealing with the feelings?
Yeah, the feelings that we all go through do not change from any human being. They don't change. The heart rate's going to go up. We will have nerves. We will have doubt, because our minds work in a similar way. So that's not going to change. However, what I'm relying on, first of all, is my training. So the skills that I've learned, again, all the different development phases I've gone through. I've done this before, so we're fortunate we practice a lot. So we've done a lot of this before. Now, the key thing then is I need to realize I need to have physical and mental resilience strategies that enable me just to calm myself down so that I can make the appropriate decision. So my resilience strategies, my physical resilience strategies, I look after myself, and I spend a lot of time making sure I am walking every day. I am training, I am drinking water. I've got a protein shake that's just been brought in by my daughter on the side as we're talking here. So I make sure that from a physical perspective, I'm in as good shape as I can possibly be. I get sleep, I get hydrated. That's very important. And then my mental resilience strategies are, I will take a big deep breath in when I'm under pressure. Because what it will do is it will naturally just calm me down. I have positive thoughts inside my head. Trust yourself, confidence, resilience, determination. And I will play them over time and time again, whether I'm on the back of a C-130 or indeed I'm in business or I'm about to step in front of year one. I'm still going to go, you need to be brave here, Floyd. You need to be focused. You need to be determined, because my heart's racing. Because again, the mind doesn't differentiate between these two situations. Positive anchors, remembering, support, all these different things are strategies that I will use to make sure when I come to make a decision, I'm in the best possible state. And that's really important. And that's what we should be giving our staff, those well-being strategies, and then also the children as well, because once you've got those, then you can deal with life, because that's what life will be about, having to deal with problems and being resilient.
Right, that's lovely. Thank you for that. You mentioned year one. I said I'd come back to Dave's definition of bravery. He wrote a blog right in the early days when he was bringing together the infant school, the junior school, and the secondary school to be a through school. And I think the title of the blog was "You Don't Know Fear Until You've Led a Year One Assembly." I think is that right, Dave? And we've got you to write the book Brave Heads. So just talk about bravery and put it in the context of what's going on at the moment, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, just to go to that blog, that was, I was a secondary head. I was used to kids with the way of the school that was at that time. The kids stood up when you went in and you spoke to them, and they listened relatively quietly, and, well, you fooled yourself, they were listening. But then when it was, I'd then run down the road to the infants and did the same thing at the infants, and they weren't listening as much, and they started fiddling with my shoes, and they can't, I said, "Hello, I'm Mr. Harris," and they replied, it was kind of, I remember at that time the fear was immense. I'm not saying it's quite the same as Floyd flying into wherever, but it was, at that time, was very real to me. And I do think that any of you sitting there as involved in schools, don't belittle the fear you feel. One of the things I'm going to be doing later in the week is talking about curiosity and wonder. Probably one of the bravest things I ever did was to bring Matthew, who I'm doing the conversation with, to become agent of wonder in a school that was under the cosh by the government and advisors, and all they wanted was literacy and numeracy. And I kind of said, no, we need wonder, we need curiosity. And that kind of was my equivalent of what's difficult, but, I didn't handle it probably as well as Floyd did. I just ate lots of biscuits and worried about it. And consequently had a stroke when I was 50. And you kind of go, hold on. And that's what really made me realise that you've got to look after yourself.
You do.
And one of my favourite quotes to come back to Bravery, it's Robert, I can't remember, but he said something along the lines of the opposite of bravery is not cowardice, it's conformity. And I think that is so powerful, because you know what? Sometimes the bravest things you do is just not doing what everyone else is. Just because the school down the road is doing this, and just because the parents want that, doesn't mean you have to, as long as you're doing it for the right reasons. The reasons why I knew we needed an agent of wonder and not some literacy guru was that actually I kind of knew that if kids are at the centre of what we want, I needed them to love learning again. I needed them to be excited again. And you kind of, if you know that, you have to stick by it. So for me, I sometimes once graphed, I think in Brave Heads, I graphed and said, if you actually drew a graph of how you feel on any one day, and if you think back for the last year, do it yourselves after this. Actually go, okay, for this last year, from this time last year, how's how I felt gone during that time? And you probably, if you were to ask the staff that work with you, would they know? And if your answer is no, they probably will. I kept that from them. Your point of highest bravery was probably when you were at your lowest ebb, because people were actually, you were not letting them see the pain you felt inside. But if you don't deal with that, if you don't remind yourself, as Floyd just outlined, that's when stuff like happened to me happens, is that your body just hates that stress, because we all know the worst part of leadership is actually having to do something that you feel is wrong. And feeling it's wrong means it's against your values. But what I am so excited by, I've found over the last few years, I've found more and more school leaders who are going, you know what, this is right for our kids in our area, and this is what we're doing. And that's what I love. And I just hope that society starts to really value those heroes and doesn't do as they have been doing over previous times, is if it doesn't fit the exam marks, they're off. And that has to be changed if we really want to move things on. We need to applaud the genuinely brave leaders.
Absolutely. The values, but working contrary to your values. I've seen that in leaders around England especially, but elsewhere as well, where they have a set of values with which they tried to lead and with which they came into the job. And then there's a different set of values which are being imposed upon them, a lot of it around performativity and data. And the two are in conflict, and they get sick. And whether it's the heart attack, like you describe, or whether it's emotional sickness, or they just burn out. And you just see it's the conflict in the values that is the starting point, or then the physical ailments.
It's worth actually an exercise worth trying with your cut out a load of those that look like kind of that kind of thing, and on it write the name of someone who has an influence over your school: parents, kids, governors, Ofsted, yourself, your most senior leader, your NQT, your caretaker, your receptionist, and actually put them on a paper and actually just say, what do all these people want? Now, in the most wondrous school that has got its values right, they will all align. I doubt very much, in most schools I work at, that's the goal. But if you, for example, if your parents feel it's going in one direction, you kind of can't afford to ignore it. And that's what, when I'm working with schools, I kind of go, okay, if some of your parents do not get this, don't just go, oh, well, that's the parents. You've either got to change your direction of school, or you've got to change the views of your parents, or work with your parents to share the vision, to show it. And that's to me is a really good exercise. And so it's worth trying yourself. Just find out what arrows are misaligned, and then ask yourself the question, so how are we going to do something about it?
The change in the parents bit, I heard a head teacher I've worked with in Hong Kong, and they were going through a big school transformation, and he used the phrase, you can't over communicate. And that's how he felt. It was constantly about the communication. And I think that's valid and valuable, especially what's going on now. And it's being authentic in your communication. Like you said earlier, both of you, if you say, I don't know, I don't know. And I think one of the problems we see with the government, they never say that. They never say, we don't know, we got it wrong, we're not sure. It's always trying to be certain about everything, which is, there's a form of arrogance there as well, maybe, but it just ends up undermining them. So you can't over communicate, I think, is important. I think we're against the clock. There's one other aspect of leadership that I know is huge for you, Dave, and I'll get your perspective on it, and just sort of come back to Floyd on that as well. And that's trusting your gut. And excuse when I say the word huge and gut at the same time, and you've talked about biscuits, but it's not that bad, honestly. You have a strong, and I know in the leadership that we do together for independent thinking, you're always counselling me to sort of, my gut says this, my intuition says this is what I feel. What is your gut telling you? What is the role of what seems to be a very unscientific approach to leadership around the gut?
I am actually a scientist. I'm a chemist, and that's what my degree's in. Actually, I believe we misrepresent science. Great science is actually an art as well. It's about feeling, it's about reading. When I used to teach A-level chemistry, I'd actually say to kids, yeah, but what do you feel? Don't reach for your calculator. What do you feel this should be? And that's because, actually, as you know probably better than I do, Ian, that if you look at the neuroscience, people like Dr. Andrew Curran, one of our associates, wrote a fantastic little book of big stuff about the brain. And in it, there is growing evidence that there is a connection between some cells in our body, some of the neuron, some of the cells and our brain, that means actually gut instinct is not some weird, pseudoscience. That actually is an indication that there's something going wrong. You think about it. When you're driving, why do you feel, when you're a passenger and you're reading in the car, why do you feel sick? That's what many of us do. Why? Because there's a difference between what your ears, which tell your balance, are saying, and what your page does, because your page is staying there. So your page is saying, your eyes are telling you you're stationary, but your ears are telling you you're kind of moving about. So you feel sick. That's exactly what gut instinct is. Gut instinct is about something, you know what, something doesn't feel right. Now you might be wrong, you might be wrong, and it is right. So I'm not saying gut instinct's always right, but use it, put it there. If you have gut instinct that it's nagging at me, this isn't right, don't dismiss it as rubbish, put it on the table and share it with others, and actually say, look, I'm just feeling this is wrong. I don't know why. Can you just help me explore it? But alongside it, put your values. And you'll probably find that actually what it is that what you're being asked to do doesn't fit your values. Okay. And you then come back, and if you're prepared to shift your values, you've really got to ask yourself whether you're right.
We know there are neurons outside of the brain that are in the gut. There's a direct brain connection, so it is worth it's worth listening to the gut. I've always felt that. So I'll bring that back to Floyd just for the last sort of couple of minutes, really. To what extent is leadership for you in your experiences, and also going forward, Floyd, to what extent is an element of trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, trusting the hunches that you get? Where does that fit into this approach?
It's exactly what you've just heard. For me, it's invaluable. And what I'd say is, and so my thoughts, again, having studied neuroscience and various different things, is don't think your gut instinct is just drawn from the ether. It's not. It's based on all of your experiences, all of your training. It's just such a depth, you can't consciously understand it. The subconscious has already said that's the answer based on the information and the training that you have. So if I was ever in a difficult situation and I don't have time to think this through, I trust myself implicitly to make the right decision, always, because based on the information I have, the first decision that comes into my head will generally be pretty correct. I might get more information from which to adjust that. That's a different thing. But ultimately, I will trust it. And I trust it 99% of the time, because generally it's not going to be far off. And as I said, it's because it's based on all of your experiences, things you probably can't even remember thinking, and therefore trust it. If you make a mistake, well, again, you've learned something. It's just something to be aware of. But as I said, I'm a great believer that usually I'm not far off trusting that instinct, simply based on, as I said, the knowledge that I've now got in my head.
Mm-hmm. Trust, just a word that keeps coming back to trusting others. Trusting young people was a phrase that came from the first session. And then trusting ourselves as well to make the right decisions and deal with what happens next.
If I could say this, Ian, if I could say this, we underestimate children enormously. I don't care where I've been in schools now, and with the right encouragement, children have an innate intelligence that's way beyond us. And I think that the key thing is if we listen more to children, and if we raise the bar on what we think they're capable of doing, I just think that this generation is the generation that will transform things. I know sometimes we were going to discuss on what has changed. The only thing that really has changed is this generation coming through, I hope, will take things on board to transform society. I don't necessarily think we've gone through enough hardship for the adults, shall we say, to change dramatically yet, personally. I think that's still a little bit away. But I do think the next generation coming through, hopefully getting that bravery, that information to really change society. As I said, I'm not 100% sure that the adults in society are going to change dramatically yet. Okay. I think the young generation may do.
That we put out a blog a couple of weeks ago based on a conversation of independent thinking associates, and the headline is "Let the Children Heal You," and it was this really powerful message that we can turn to them to ask them what we want, ask them what they want, ask them how we can help them, how they can help us, and to trust them and trust their, as you say, their innate intelligence. Somebody was just querying about the book that Dave mentioned, which is Andrew Curran's Little Book of Big Stuff About the Brain, which is just a really simple way of understanding the amazing thing and we've got between our ears. That's a good book. Wow. That conversation, hopefully all the attendees agreed, it was just brilliant. It was exactly what I wanted, to reassure anybody watching, and we'll record it and put bits out as well, that it's okay, we'll get there, be brave, trust yourself, trust others, stick to your values. If you don't know what they are, work on that now. Make sure you're supporting people through the challenge, and a real understanding of great leadership. And hopefully what will emerge from this crisis is even more great leaders. One of the questions that came through is, how do we spread good leadership around the country? Let's have a postcode lottery, was the quote from the question. And I think giving people the chance to rise to the challenge now, and being supported, they rise to the challenge, means we're going to have a generation of leaders who have gone through this and can deal with anything else that comes our way. Thank you, Dave. That was wonderful. Thank you, Floyd. It's great to see you. Are you both a beer next time I see you somewhere? Hopefully soon. Thank you to all the people who sort of came along. Remember what we said, chuck some money into the buckets of NHS Relief Project, Winston's Wish, Big Issue, or RSPB. If you want more from us at ITL Worldwide, or to me directly, Ian at independentthinking.co.uk. Check out the website, independentthinking.com. There's also all our books, independentthinkingpress.com. They've all got something like 30% off at the moment, or 50% off the ebooks. We're doing everything we can to get the information out to you in a way that helps. That's all we're trying to do. So I'll pass it over to Nina to switch the buttons. But thank you ever so much, and keep safe, and see you again. Thank you.